My name is Totalbiscuit, and I suck at Starcraft 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Totalbiscuit, and I still suck at Starcraft 2. Welcome to another episode. This is one of those impromptu ones. A lot of them are these days, actually. That's really what ISS2 is kind of turning into. It's like, hey, I just did this game, and either I failed monumentally, and I want to show you how I could have avoided doing that, or I did something kind of cool, and I want to show you that, and maybe how it could be improved and actually integrated into a strategy. This one's on the Metalopolis. I'm, of course, playing Terran versus my opponent, Deimos, in the blue trunks over there. He is playing Protoss. Now, my usual strategy in a Terran versus Protoss matchup will be to build 3 barracks, will be to build a lot of Marines and a lot of Marauders, and will then hopefully ram them into the Protoss' face repeatedly until it either caves in or I simply run out of fists with which to hit him. That is usually my strategy. It's very, 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 very basic. It works the majority of the time. Usually what it will cause is for my opponent to build Colossi, and then I will have to counter those Colossi somehow, or either run headlong into the fiery laser beams of death and hopefully try and kill them before that happens. Anyway. Opening, fairly standard there. I actually chose to have my SCV mine another 5 minerals and delayed my barracks very slightly. There was... I don't see any justification for doing what I just did. I felt like it at the time. But don't worry, it's not a game ender. Fixating on these tiny little things at such a low level, in my honest opinion, is not what you should be doing. You should be thinking about things, overarching concepts, like having more money than the other guy, having more dudes than the other guy, and making sure that you build those dudes as quickly as possible and use them in a manner which is befitting of having lots of dudes. And that's as basic as I would go with it. And that's what I would think a lot of you have just started with StarCraft 2 or are considering buying StarCraft 2. I know a lot of people that watch this show don't even have the game, or indeed who are just stuck in the Bronze League or whatever. Those are the kinds of things you need to be fixating on in order to get out of the Bronze League. And when you get out of the Bronze League, you can look at stuff that's a bit more advanced. And obviously, I'm in Silver. Hopefully, we'll be Gold very soon. I mean, I'm sitting on about 42 wins to 29 losses right now, so I'm hoping that should be fairly quick, but we'll find out. So, you know, that opening, fairly standard. Barracks could have gone down a little bit earlier, my second barracks. Indeed, I probably should have started building it as I went through to my orbital command. You saw 150 minerals, no problem at all. Could have very easily dumped down another barrack, should have done it, honestly. Pump out a couple of Marines to make sure there's no early probe nonsense going on, make sure they can't dump down any pylons at my base, any cannon rushing, anything like that. And then deploy that, but again, still, haven't built that other barracks. I could have got a second barracks down quicker than that, and that's something that I should have been thinking about. I've got into my third barracks now, but I could have got aggressive earlier in this game, and I actually could have either done more damage, or I could have maybe even ended the game entirely in the early game. Right now, what we see our Protoss guy doing is he's going robotics facility after a single gateway, and this is not unusual, but what it stops you from doing is getting out a lot of units at the start of the game to defend against early aggression. I mean, right now, what he's got is he hasn't actually started his warp gate because he was a bit late. He went for double assimilator, finally got that, now starts his warp gate 4 minutes 45 into the game, and then puts his 2 other gateways down. Now, in theory, if I got my second barracks down, I could have probably got out either maybe 1 more Marine or 1 more Marauder for this early little push that I'm doing here around the 5-minute mark. Now, I've seen that he doesn't have anything, and my response to him not really having much other than this sentry is to go in. Now, bear in mind that in a higher level game, having that 1 sentry would probably be enough to delay the opposing force. But in this case, it's a lower level player, so whether or not we can rely on him getting that force field down at the right time, that is questionable. That's something that you should bear in mind. Now, in the meantime, I really should be building SCVs, but I can't because I managed to supply block myself. Again, a common problem. All the way up the ramp, and he is not quick enough in responding to that. He knows a force field won't help. He actually focuses in on my Marauder, which doesn't really help an awful lot. I'm going to try and take this pylon for free if I can. But right now, he's having to pull a bunch of dudes off the mineral line, which has an immediate impact on his economy. Now, he's way ahead economically. I mean, he's great at boosting probes out. Really good at it, that's clear. I'm able to kill a few of his probes, but he does defend quite well against my early pressure. Again, maybe if I had had an extra Marine in there, I could have done extra damage, an extra Marauder, I could have maybe done some extra damage, but that was a really big pull off the line, so And what this guy is good at, blatantly, is building probes, and that is a useful talent to have, no question about that. He's got those 2 gateways down, but he's now only just finished off with the warp gate, and he needs to do that transition through to that right now. So what am I doing in the meantime? Well, he's got an observer in my base really early, so he knows what I've got coming, and I'm continuing to dedicate myself to this approach of building barracks. Once again, got myself supply blocked. I need to focus on this bit. I think it's actually the size of my screen. I really do believe this. I actually use a 30-inch screen, and because of the distance I am from the screen, it's kind of hard for me to see the whole screen at any given time. I think maybe either I need to push my monitor back, or I need to maybe get a smaller screen, because this all the way up in the corner, when I'm looking at this, I'm not looking at the rest of the screen. The minimap is in the opposite goddamn corner to that. It would be so helpful if they were in the same place. Indeed, you know, you've got games like World of Warcraft that allow you to reconfigure your UI. It's kind of a shame that you can't do that with Starcraft 2. You know, I would love to have this in the same place as this. Why can I not have that over the top of the minimap? Then I would pay more attention to it. Now, as we're about to find out, I made a dumb thing right there. I threw in a couple of Marines, which got themselves slaughtered. And as I'm going to go up that ramp, you can very clearly see I'm not going to win this fight at all. I do have stim. I can fixate on one, maybe bring down another, but that'll be it, you know. No real damage there, and he crushes that without any problem whatsoever. He does have the 3 warp gates up, and any more pressure that I try and apply here is probably going to be crushed by Stalkers. I realize that, so I back off and decide I'm going to take these 2 Zelnaga watchtowers so I can see if he decides some kind of counterattack. And he does have an Immortal coming out with a +1 weapon upgrade as well. What am I doing in the meantime? Well, I'm still on these 3 barracks. I'm still trying to build a critical mass of force to break my way through there. But since I know that he's not really coming anywhere near me right now, I've decided I'm going to go and expand. It's fine. Yeah, I don't see this as a particularly bad time to expand. I probably could have expanded earlier because I knew that he was sort of bottled in there. And he's already started his expansion, so he's going to be a little bit ahead of me economically. There we go. He's got an Immortal. His force is pretty nice. He's got 4 sentries, which will be great against my Marines. He's got 6 Stalkers, and he has an Immortal to bust through those Marauders. Although I do have 15 Marines and 4 Marauders. They're sadly not all in my force. If they were, maybe, just maybe, I'd have more luck cracking this. But he did just warp in 2 extra Stalkers, so that, again, is probably going to be a foregone conclusion. I don't have Marine Shield up. I do have Stim. I do have Concussive Shell. So, in we go. Let's see if we can actually do some damage right here. Not really target firing well enough, and that's a very, very good splitting there. Very good force fields by my opponent. He's actually able to crush that, no problem at all. In terms of units lost, he is doing really well, and his economy continues to be ahead of mine. Now, I stream out right there because I rally pointed, and then I'm like, oh no, that's a bad idea, that's a terrible idea, let's not do anything of the sort. So we're going to just rally all of our stuff here until we know we've got what we need. So I'm getting an infantry weapon level 1 upgrade, and I'm also getting combat shield. However, I'm going to break out the Ghost Academy, because this is a similar situation to a previous game you saw, where EMP was able to solve my problem. My problem is, I can't break that front line. How can I fixate? Fixate? Wow. No. How can I fix the problem? I'm fixating on fixing this problem, folks. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. Not talking out my arse or anything. I can fix this problem by EMPing this group. If he keeps his group well together, if I drop some EMPs in the middle, then my large group of stimmed Marines and Marauders should be able to batter their way through without a problem. So I'm going to get that. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to build a factory, give myself a few options. If I need to transition into some kind of mech play, then I can get the factory for that. And also I get a nuke out. And this is kind of what I'm really going to be showing you in this particular game. This is a situation where EMP actually doesn't do the job, but another tool of the Ghost does. Now, I want to try and think about whether or not it's possible to integrate this into your play style in a way that makes sense, because nuke is, certainly in quite a lot of lower levels, I think, considered to be very gimmicky. It's something that's like, oh, I got a nuke off, isn't that awesome? It's not really central to people's strategies. Now, Deimos continues to warp in, and I think one of his critical errors that he's making right here is the fact that he's not making any Colossi. He's 12 minutes into the game. He has 4 assimilators. Admittedly, he's got no probes in either of these 2, but he could do. He could build Colossi. He's not. He's just building gateways. Yeah, you can see he's going to go build 6 gateways, which is fine. He's going to build another robotics facility, which would make me think, oh, you know, that's definitely going to be Colossi. Certainly Colossi. But it doesn't end up being Colossi. And again, this is not just about telling you how to play Terran, this is about pointing out the flaws in the Protoss's play. He's not building Colossi. He's got no sign of any. None. None at all. And he could. He could build some right now. You know, he's got the tech. He has the technology. He can see what I'm doing. His observer spotted all of these Marines and Marauders. He knows. Okay, I'm going to start the nuke off right there. Now, you'll see a few minutes of sort of nonsense, really. I've got my other command center up here, so my economy is doing pretty well. Admittedly, I'm 20 probes behind the dude, but you're supposed to be. Bear this in mind, folks. Terrans are supposed to be behind Protoss in terms of harvester count. That's simply the way it is. They have chrono boost. It is not unusual. So don't freak out if you see that. It's okay, we have mules to compensate. No? That was put in for a purpose. It's not, oh my god, mules so OP. Not really. They're to counteract the fact that the Protoss has the ability to build harvesters way faster, as does the Zerg, because they can build several at a time. Aside from that, everything's pretty good here. I've supply blocked myself again, as you can clearly see. My army count is still way outnumbered, though. Can I solve the problem with Ghosts? Let's find out. Will Ghosts be enough? This time I've grouped them up. Can I get some good EMPs? Reasonable EMPs, but my focus fire is still not great. Again, that EMP micromanagement was all off, yep. Like, I EMP'd twice in the same area, which didn't help. If I'd managed to EMP this and this, then, yes, absolutely, I probably could have done the damage. Unfortunately, I also don't have Cloak for my Ghost, so as Deimos realizes that, he's going to try and take Ghost for free, and you know what, he's going to be able to do that. I can't stop him. I can't outrun it. Ghosts are just not that fast. Right. So, I have a problem. My problem is I can't break that line. Yeah. That's an issue. Could I still continue along this route? Yeah, I could, but I'm going to drop some medevacs into the mix, give my Marines and Marauder Force more of a staying power. It also gives me the option, when required, to break out Vikings if he decides to do Colossi, which he's still not doing, which is incredibly confusing. He's dedicating himself more to Immortals, which is fine if I was going heavily into Marauders, but I'm actually not. I only have one barracks producing Marauders. I'm actually producing way more Marines, and I'm also pumping out some Ghosts as well. So I don't really know why he's dedicating so much energy to Immortals in that situation. If I was going tanks and things like that, I can totally understand it, but I'm not. Now, he's expanded. I could expand here once I've got so much money. I'm producing tons of stuff, but I'm still not producing enough to get rid of all of this money. So that seems to me as like, oh, I should expand. I should sink some money into something expensive. I should maybe put a tech lab on that. The problem is that I'm actually lacking in terms of Vespene gas. What could I do? I could put a reactor on that, and I could put out Hellions. Yeah, that would be a great way to sink a whole bunch of resources that I can't sink with these barracks. Or I could just build more barracks. Now, I have 4. He's got like 6 warp gates. I could have more barracks than that. So again, that's a weakness in terms of what's called my macro, which is my ability to build as many units as fast as possible and adequately manage my economy. So my macro here is not good. I don't have enough barracks. Look at all this money. It needs to be sunk into something. I mean, I'm queuing units and I still have tons of resources. It's got to be sunk into something. So bear that in mind. If you have a factory that's doing nothing, slam a reactor on it and build some goddamn Hellions. Yeah, it might not be all that useful, but at least you're building something, and hey, you never know. You might find a point where that's handy. I mean, it's not really going to help me an awful lot here, because all of these dudes are, like, armored, with the exception of those light sentries, but at least I've then got a force that can maybe slide past and do damage to his mineral line. I could get him in there and do huge damage. Now, speaking of huge damage, I'm going to start doing a few drops, and what I decided to do is, hey, I'm going to get the Ghosts in. Can I nuke this mineral line? Well, actually, as it turns out, there's barely any mineral line to nuke, so this was a complete and total waste of frickin' time. Yeah. This is the thing. If it's like, oh, I'm going to do a nuke 18 minutes into the game on the main base. Why? Why do you do this, Totalbiscuit? What is the point? Oh, look, I just threw away a nuclear missile to kill a probe. Overkill much. If I can't get it in here, what the hell is the damn point? Yeah, well, don't do that. Don't do nuke drops 18 minutes of the game on the main base. He's got no minerals left. He's mined them all. My god. Yeah, just think about it. Again, I could have nuked this area. I didn't know he had this expansion. I should have scouted for it. I really should have. I know that he's expanded here. He has to have at this stage of the game, even though I haven't actually seen it. That big ball of doom right there is problematic. However, what about if we could think of another use for nuclear missiles? I notice I've got a big problem. My big problem is this huge-ass, stonking, slow-moving ball of doom. Yeah, look at it. Look at that. That's huge. He has 26 Stalkers. He's got 5 Immortals, 13 Zealots, and 7 Sentries. Can I break the line with this? Probably not. I've got to try it anyway, as my medevacs get shot to pieces. There we go, into the line. Can we get some EMP off? Tries to back away from it. I get a good bit of damage right here, but he's got a good sentry force field placement that's able to divide my lines just a little bit. What can I do? Well, I can EMP a little bit, but I don't really have the forces anymore. What can I do? Well, I can think of something. Nuclear frickin' launch detected is what I can think of. Will he see it? Let's find out. Let's have a look from his view. Oh, it's a little blob on the ground. It's a little blob on the ground. It's a little blob on the ground. It's a... Oh! Ouch! That's gotta hurt. Why does that work in low-level play? Because people get tunnel vision. Use the weaknesses that you yourself have. Bear in mind, the people you're playing probably have exactly the same weaknesses. They get tunnel visioned. They don't pay attention to that. Oh my god, big fight, big fight. Nuclear launch detected? Yeah. Did I hear it? Maybe I did. But do I care? Maybe it's in my base again. Oh, big deal. He's dropping a nuke on my base. Who cares? Did he see that dot? Evidently not, because you walked right into it. Massive damage. And now he's lost more stuff than I have as a direct result of that nuke. I would like to show you. I want to just zoom back here. I would like to show you exactly the difference in units lost right here. So let's get forward. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, warp in. Big ball of doom. Big ball of doom. So that was my nuke in the back there that nobody really cares about. Rebuilt another nuke. There's his ball of death. Have a look at his units lost right here. There's the nuke. He's on about 9,000, 9,000, 9,000. Oh, 4,000. Yes, 4,000 resources worth of units annihilated right there. We'll have a look at his food count as well. You know, I'm sorry, I just love this. It's great. Let's have a look at his food count. And yes, don't use the word food. Ah, Sean, damn you! That's something that Day 9 uses, by the way. He calls it food. It's not food, it's supply. You can't eat it. I'm trying to get it out of my goddamn vocabulary because I know it's confusing, but if you do hear the word food, it means supply. It's a Warcraft term, folks. It's not Starcraft. You shouldn't be saying it. Anyway. I'm outnumbered. You know, you see the supply count right here. There's a good 30 supply difference. Let's keep an eye on his supply count. There you go. Right, down about 130, 128, 110, 112. Yep. There we go, 112, 112, and boom! There we go. What, about 50, 60 supplies worth of stuff blown up? Yeah, that worked pretty well. However, that is not necessarily a winning situation. What could I have done? Well, I could have exploited the relative immobility of this army. He doesn't have blink on his stalkers, he's got immortals, he's not really all that fast moving. I could have been doing drops this entire time, yeah, and I should have been doing drops this entire time. Dropping into the base, doing massive amounts of damage right here, just chewing away at his production facilities, making sure he can't keep pumping out those units that are so problematic. I keep going for the front, and yet I have the option not to. So why keep throwing away resources at the front like that? The answer is, you shouldn't. Unless it serves as a distractionary tactic for something else. Maybe if I just threw in half the force at the front and then dropped the rest. You know, then he'd be forced to respond to one or the other. He'd have to either pull back and deal with the forces that are wrecking his base, or he'd have to stand and fight here in order to defend this expansion. One way or the other, he's going to be hit. So yeah, there you go. Massive mistakes. And finally I realized this about 22 minutes into the game. Oh, you know what? I could be doing drops, because he's got no anti-air and no air superiority. Still no Colossi, which is a very puzzling thing to me. Again, if you're a Protoss player by this stage and you're seeing your opponent just going Marines Broad and Medivac, for God's sake, build Colossus. Please, please, for the good of my sanity, build Colossus. Right, now I'm going to start chewing away at him, and he decides, actually, he's not going to bother. He's going to try and base race me. Which is a term that means he's going to race to destroy all of my bases first. And I have less bases than he does, so actually, that's a good idea. Huh? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with not pulling back and dealing with this stuff. Admittedly, I am gutting pretty much his entire base right here, which is going to be problematic, but he has the resources to rebuild. You see, he's already rebuilding then, he's got all sorts of options. Now, that ball of death could be problematic. What if I use a defensive nuke? Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Nuclear launch detected. Where does he assume that nuke is? Probably in the base. Probably in the base. Maybe it isn't. No, it's not. It's in your face. Thank you very much. There you go. Bam. And his entire attacking force is annihilated, and suddenly I now have the advantage and he loses. It's as simple as that. So, what am I trying to tell you here? Other than entertain you with massive explosions. What I'm trying to tell you is that a Ghost is a Swiss Army knife, yeah? It can do all sorts of different things. Don't just assume that Ghost in Protoss versus Terran is all about EMP. And bear in mind, always have a nuke. Always. Why not? You know how much a nuke costs? Like, nothing. Look at that. 100. Who cares? And look at how much destruction it can bring. And I'm not just talking about nuking mineral lines, which is like the standard strategy. Oh, let's drop nukes on the mineral lines. Hope-de-dub. You know, people kind of assume that. They don't assume nukes are going to be dropped right in the middle of a fight. Now, that's something they do not assume. And indeed, if even with a little bit of micromanagement, you can lure your opponent into something that will end up having them lose horribly. But I'm not just talking about the flexibility of the Ghost. I'm talking about the fact that there were so many mistakes I made in this game. My macro sucks. Still not enough barracks. If you find yourself with tons of money, and even after, spam queue, you know, doing the mash, spamming queuing units, which is bad anyway, and you shouldn't be doing it, really, but at least you're spending the money somewhere, you're still finding you got tons of money. Build some barracks, build some Hellions, just build something. Hell, build 20 supply depots in the shape of a goddamn smiley face. At least you're spending it on something that will actually be useful. Don't do what I'm doing right here, which is nothing. You know, that's the problem. That's the real problem there. Not spending that money on something which can help me. Day 9 calls it idle money. That's exactly what it is, because it ain't doing anything. Spend it on something that will actually do something, even if it's just a bunch of Hellions that you want to try and run into a mineral line. That is a tool that you can use, that's in your arsenal. What use is money? You can't throw it at the enemy. Spend it. Spend it, spend it, spend it. And always, always consider how useful drops can really be with any race. This applies to Zerg, Protoss, or Terran. Most common with Terran, obviously, because of Medivacs, but you can do it with Zerg and you can do it with Protoss as well. Just do it. Just do it. Just keep the pressure on. Pile it on. And you know what? More often than not, your opponent's probably just going to say, screw this. I can't win. I'm taking too much damage. GG. And like, a win. Wonderful. My name is Totalbiscuit, and I still suck at Starcraft 2. I'll see you next time.